Good morning, everybody. Glad to see you here. It looks like we've got a nice group of folks today. We're getting up to like 60 and 70 and so forth. So those are good numbers. And we'll probably have more coming on. So, what I wanted to do today is kind of run through some of the basics. We've got some new people. We've got about 6 or 7 new members that have come in just in the last week or so, and maybe a couple more. And I want to welcome those people. I see you guys, some of you are on the line right now. And a die says that you need a magic trick to start the meeting. Hey, well, I can do that. Um, we'll do that, die. I love you for that. You know, the best thing you can ever say to a magician is, "How did he do that?" Now, if you say, "Hey, how'd you do that?" That's a different thing than "How did he do that?" So, and when you say, "I'd like to see a magic trick," almost as good as saying, "How did he do that?" So we'll do that pretty soon. That's a good idea. Maybe start a magic trick. Right now, if you guys will imagine this in your mind, I'm holding a ping pong ball in my left hand, and I have a bowling ball in my right hand. Now watch this. I'm going to stretch my hands out opposite directions from each other, snap my fingers, which ordinarily would cause the bowling ball to fall to the ground. But now look what happened. I got a ping pong ball in my right hand, and the bowling ball is over on my left hand. How's that, Di? You ever see anything like that before? So there's our magic trick for the day. So let's move on. Let's see. No me. Sharon, Vegas to host. No Mike. Okay. How did he do that? Isn't that great? Thanks, Sharon. Appreciate it. All right. Let's take a look at the screen just for a minute, guys. And I want to talk to you about what we talk about. I'm probably going to be using this slide presentation just for promotional purposes, for one thing. It's fairly concise and it says a lot of what I need to say to people when they want to find out what it is we do. Now, what's been pointed out to me by a lot of the people I've worked with doing seminars, some of the people I've shared the stage with, and so forth, is I'm not a salesperson. I'm a teacher. I've always thought I was a salesperson because in various industries that I've worked in over the last 50, 60 years, I've always been in sales. I've always been a sales manager. I've been a salesperson and so on. And I teach, and I always thought I was selling people because when I would go in, no matter what I was selling, I would teach them how it works and why it's better than everyone else's and so forth, and wait for them to sell themselves. Now, that's a nice thing if you just want to be a nice guy. But if you want to sell something, that's not the way to do it. Al Lowry pointed out to me, sweetheart of a guy, good friend, he pointed out to me one time, he said, Bill, if you plan to sell something, you've got to sell it. You can't just talk about it and teach people how to do it. You got to hold them back. You got to say, well, here's what you could do if you owned what I have. And here's what would happen if you pay me some money. And if you buy this particular product, you're going to be able to do this and this. Throw the ifs and so on in there and show them some front pages of things they want, but don't show them the whole document and so on. Well, guys, I tell you what I find out is personally, I'd rather be a teacher, I think, than a salesperson. That's what I like doing. So when somebody goes to my seminars, and some of you, virtually all of you, have been to a seminar of mine once or twice or 10 times, and you'll notice that I'm doing teaching. And that's what I love to do. And I'm probably missing out on some sales opportunities, but that's okay. What I love to hear people say is, man, that was great. I really enjoyed the session rather than give me some. So I don't know if that's too modeling for you or not, but that's kind of where I am, and that's kind of what this slide presentation is intended to do. It's intended to teach somebody why they ought to buy something, but at the same time, for those people who've already bought something, then it's an educational tool. So let's go on. Let's talk a little bit about what we're doing here. And let's make sure that everything runs along just right. Real estate investor is somebody who knows how to make money, regardless of whether a property is in perfect condition, dilapidated, or loaded with equity, or completely upside down. And that's part of, our business, is knowing that virtually, not absolutely, but virtually any property that's out there works. In other words, we can make money on properties that are run down by buying fixer-uppers. We can make money on properties that are in a not great area if we want to, because all we got to do is find out if other people live in that not great area, and presume that if they're there, somebody else might like to be there too, and we can do a lot of things that other people can't. So the kind of property or the situation that the property is in doesn't have to make any difference to us. What makes the difference is whether or not we're going to take a risk. And risk is the thing that you got to watch out for. You got to make sure that what you're doing is as close to risk-free as possible. There's nobody who makes an investment, who's very wealthy anyway, who makes an investment if they know that there's a lot of risk associated. Even the people who take lots of chances know that one of the first laws of investing is to eliminate the risk as well as you can, Donald Trump included. So some people can invest without risk. If you got $1 million and you're going to buy a $10,000 stock, and you're not risking anything. What's 10,000 to somebody with $1 million? So let's move along. Let's see, Dan. People are still coming in, so I might have to pause a little bit now and then. And whether or not the property has to be acquired for 60 cents on the dollar in order to allow for an after repair value and resell price that makes sense. So let's say, for example, you want to do a flip. Now, I know Brett Ehlers is on the line right now, and Brett is a flip guru. I mean, Brett knows more about flipping properties than Jesus, probably. And he's the guy who somebody would go to learn to do that kind of stuff. But the thing is, flipping is great if you got money, or you got somebody behind you who has money and credit and what have you. Or just pure cash. It's great. It's a great way to make some money. But what I don't particularly like about flipping is the elbow grease. I don't want to have to do any work in order to make money on a house. I've learned over the last 25 years, 30 years, that I can buy houses all day long and not have to do any work and make a lot of money on them. And, if I look at somebody who is flipping a property and they're making $30,000 on the flip, and I can go in and get a free house and make $15,000 on it and do three a month, I'm going to make more money than the flipper. So let's talk about this. You want to do a flip, but you can't because the owner doesn't have enough equity in the property to give you a good after repair value to work with. You'd like to do a flip, but you can't, although the owner would be really happy to just give you the property if you'd take it. But alas, it has a big loan on it with big payments. Or maybe you're thinking about doing a flip, but you can't. And you learn that a short sale and a loan mod were already tried and failed, and the owner's payments are current but not going to be that way for long. Or you can't do a flip because you're out of cash and you can't get the loan you need because of availability of credit or experience issues and so on. Or maybe you got some cash. And maybe you got decent credit, but you'd like to avoid spending it and using it up. And you want to bypass the potential litigation and owner carry risks and restrictions associated with so-called creative financing. Well, I got a solution for you. We'll talk about it here in a minute. This is how many times can you go into an investment real estate single family investment situation and completely avoid the rules and regulations against doing creative financing? Well, there's where we come in. We can do that for you. So what do? You got to figure out something. You got the property right there in front of you. You want to do something. Bill Gatton said you can make money on it no matter what. And you know that as soon as the termites stop holding hands, the thing's going to fall to the ground, but you still know that somehow, somewhere, someplace, there's a profit there for you, if you know what to do. Well, if you know me, and you know the people that know me, then you know what to do. You got two choices. One of them is just walk away, forget it. There's not enough ARV in there to help you out. It's too dilapidated. It's going to take too much money to fix it up, and so on. And you just don't have any idea what to do. Well, first thing to do, give me a call. I'll take it. As almost no property that I wouldn't take if the seller is willing to keep the loan in place and leave his equity intact if he has any for 3 to 5 years. If that happens and the seller says, sure, I'll do that. I'll just give you the property and then wait for you to handle all the expenses and make all the payments and take care of it and all that kind of stuff. And you can't seem to find a way to do it or the nerve to do it. I know somebody who will, and that just happens to be me. So don't ever do it. If you're a network member, you can call me and I will do it for you, with you, and so on. But if you're not and you don't want to do it, don't walk away, because I'll do it and give you some of what I can make on it. So think about that. Now, that's number one. You can just walk away. There isn't anybody that says you have to do a particular transaction if it doesn't fit. Or you get another opportunity. You can make money without spending any of it, or much of it anyway, by doing something else, something that's much easier and much quicker than a flip. How long do you think it takes me to flip a property if I get a free house that doesn't need any work on it, and I got somebody standing by who would love to live in that house and give me a couple $1,000 for the privilege and not have to qualify for a loan or fill out a credit application or come up with a down payment, and so on? How long is it going to take me to flip that house? The house is vacant because the guy not living there, he doesn't want it. He feels that he's only going to make a couple more payments. He can't afford it. And he's tried to sell it and it's not selling, and so on. But I got somebody standing by who would love to have it. They'd love to buy it. But they don't have enough money to buy it, and they can't get a loan to buy it. Well, what if I just take it? I say to the seller, hey, let me have it. Seller says, oh, okay, I'll let you have it, but you're going to have to make payments. Yeah, sure, I'll make payments. And you're going to have to take care of the insurance. I'll take care of that. And you're going to have to pay the property tax. Sure, be happy to. And you're going to have to keep the lawn mowed. Okay, sure. Now, he gives me the house, and I go to this guy who wants it, but can't qualify. I didn't have to qualify. He just handed it to me. So I go to the guy that can't qualify, doesn't have a lot of cash, find out how much cash he does have, and I put him into the property. Now, that's a way to make some money. And how many of those can I do in a month? I got to be honest with you. I've never, ever in all of my business done more than 3 in a single month. And I've only done that a couple times. But several times I've done 2 in a month. And many, many times I've done 1 in a month. I mean, we've done, personally for me, buying properties and managing them through the equity holding trust concept, I've owned as many as 150 at a time. Now, I don't own 150 properties today. I might have 3, and I might have picked up another one yesterday, and I've got one that I'll be picking up on Monday. Things are moving along, and so on. And the reason for the 3 is because we had a pretty rough spot. I can almost see Brett laughing right now. We had kind of a rough spot when the banking industry decided to screw the world. I was right in the middle of the world and got the point of the screwdriver. So whether that's the case or not doesn't make any difference. I can do 2 or 3 a month if I want to. I got other things I'd like to do. I'm writing a couple books, and I'm dealing with you guys, and I'm doing things that I absolutely love doing. So I don't have to do very many of these transactions in a month to do well. So it's your other alternative, is rather than walking away, go ahead and take the property. Now, ideally, what you're going to do, rather than committing yourself to anything, when I say take the property, I'm talking about taking a non-exclusive option to acquire the property when you're ready. Now, that means that you can go out and take the property and not have to have a buyer waiting in the wings. Give yourself 30, 45, 60 days on a non-exclusive option before you need to do something. and then take that time to go find a resident beneficiary who would like to live there, make the payments and call it his home, and take the income tax write-off and part of the future appreciation and equity buildup from principal reduction and so on, or all of it for that matter. I mean, if you've got a property that you don't want to equity share, remember equity sharing is my middle name. That's on almost, I would say virtually every property that well, that's not true. I can't even do virtually because I've had a couple that I can think of where I gave the people 100% of the house in exchange for them handing me $10,000 or $20,000 up front and then forgetting about it. But most of the time I'm doing an equity share. I'm going in and I'm saying it's just as easy to sell somebody half of the future appreciation if you don't know whether there's going to be any or not, as long as you can give them 100% of everything else. So when somebody comes into one of my deals, I'm going to give them 100% of the tax write-off, 100% of the house, 100% of the use and the occupancy and the possession and the mineral and water rights and so on. The only thing they're getting half of is something that may not even happen, and that's future appreciation. But they will pay me well for putting them in a position to take advantage of that. So I'm moving right along here. Here's some of what we teach our folks, and those of you who are on the phone right now that perhaps you don't already know or didn't until you attended one of my workshops or bought my program or whatever it might be. And I'm not going to hide anything from anybody. Whether you have the program or not, you're still going to get, what I know on these calls on Saturday mornings. So, but whether you know it or not, I can guarantee your competition doesn't know what I know, and or you know. So let's take some examples. How else do you know of to legally take over any existing mortgage loans payments without a due on sale clause violation, without alienating the title? Do you know a way to do that? An absolute surefire no due on sale violation? Well, the Garn-St. Germain Act kind of spells out what constitutes a violation of the due on sale clause, and one of the exceptions, because of the De La Cuesta court decision, 1984, 83 or 84, and because of the Wellenkamp decision in 82, the government stepped in and said, hey, banks, you can't keep foreclosing on people just because they die and leave the loan to somebody else to pay, or just because they give the property to one of their children or their mother or father. You can't do that. You can't foreclose on a widow just because her husband died and the transfer gets moved to her. That's what banks are doing prior to the Garn-St. Germain Act. Well, the Garn-St. Germain Act, most people think it's some sort of a punishment and to prevent people from doing seller financing. Well, it is. However, it's not a punishment for you. It's a punishment for the lender so they can't screw you. Because the Garn-St. Germain Act very clearly says that you're not violating a due on sale clause if you put a property in a trust. And you're not violating a due on sale clause as long as that trust doesn't transfer occupancy rights to somebody else other than yourself. And you're not violating a due on sale clause as long as you can revoke that trust when you feel like it, as long as it stays revocable. And you're not violating due on sale clause if these things are true and an inter vivos trust. In other words, a trust that takes place and becomes active and functional during your lifetime, inter vivos. So all of a sudden, that clears the way for a very small percentage of the people. How many people do you know who buy and sell real estate using an inter vivos trust as the transfer device? Nobody. I talk to people all the time. Oh, yeah, sure, I know what a land trust is. I've done several land trusts. No, they haven't done several equity holding trust transfers. They've done land trust. The land trust doesn't do anything. Land trust, if you try to transfer a property by putting in a land trust and making somebody else the beneficiary and you end up in court, you lose. And you have also violated the due on sale clause. So that's one benefit of what we do and one aspect of this business that nobody else knows about. And if you do, you're way ahead of the rest of the pack. Here's another one. how to legally take over any loan without compromising the Dodd Frank Act. Now, I talked to somebody this morning who talked about wanting to know more about the Dodd Frank Act. If you send me an email, I'll send you what I have on the Dodd Frank Act, but you can also go on the internet and probably get a lot more than I got. But the whole point of the Dodd Frank Act is that it was passed by Mr. Dodd and Mr. Frank, Christopher Dodd and Barney Frank, neither one of which I have a whole bunch of respect for, because they started this whole thing along with their buddies, this recession that we went through. But be that as it may, Christopher Dodd and Barney Frank got together and decided that they could put a cork in the bottle that they had opened by passing this Dodd Frank Act. And what it basically says to mortgage lenders is no longer will you be able to do mortgages where you screw people. Okay? From now on, you're going to have to qualify the borrowers according to certain debt to income rate and a debt to payment ratio and so on. And no longer will you be able to run out there and pick up paper and dump it off to somebody else without being a bona fide mortgage banker or mortgage broker and so forth. And if you're going to make mortgage loans, you better be sure that you adhered specifically and directly with the RESPA, the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, and TILA, the Truth in Lending Act, and FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, and so on. Now, if you can't qualify and you can't, and Reg Z relative to the escrow process, then you're in violation of the law. And you can go to jail. Well, wow, okay. But here's the thing about the Dodd Frank Act. They don't care about personal property, and that doesn't cover someone who wants to sell a bicycle to their neighbor kid and say to the kid, hey, we want $50 for the bicycle. The kid says, well, I don't have $50. Is there something else you can do? I'll tell you what, you can mow my lawn and count that as $5, and when you've mowed my lawn 10 times, it's your bicycle. How's that? Well, Dodd-Frank doesn't cover that, but that's seller financing. That's owner financing. They don't cover it because it's personal property. It's not real estate. And because it's not real estate, there's no mortgage involved. It doesn't matter. If I can loan my next door neighbor $1,000 and have him pay me back $11 a month for 10 months, that's 10% interest, and that's a loan, but it's not a mortgage loan. If it's a loan, it's a loan, not a mortgage, and has nothing to do with real estate. So if there's no real estate, there can't be a mortgage, okay, the death and dying of the loaned amount and so on. So as a result, that's where morte comes in. That's why they call it a mortgage, death and dying of the balance. So Dodd-Frank doesn't cover anything that has to do with personal property. So what do you do with a piece of real estate? Real estate's not personal property, no. But if you can put that real estate into a big old bottle that is personal property and then forget about selling the real estate and just sell the bottle, well, that's personal property that you're selling or that you're dealing with or that you own. And Dodd-Frank has nothing to do with it. And then somebody says, yeah, but there's a big house inside that giant bottle. It doesn't matter. I'm not selling you the house. But if you want the bottle, you're going to have to take the house along with it. Well, that's what happens when you put a property into a land trust. You're converting the ownership from the ownership of real estate to the ownership of personal estate. So what you do first is give the house to that bottle, to the trustee. The trustee now owns the real estate. You don't. You give the legal title and the equitable title to the trustee, who's going to act in good faith, and the trustee needs to be a competent, qualified, licensed, third-party, nonprofit corporation, charitable corporation acting for the benefit of its members, and so on. Therefore, you don't own the property anymore. What you own is a personal property interest in the trust, which is your beneficiary interest in that trust, where the real estate is. So that means now that since you've converted your ownership of real estate to ownership of personal estate, Dodd-Frank doesn't even talk to you. They don't care about you because you're a personal property owner. So that's beautiful when you understand the far reaches of that. That means you can do magic now. How to make money on over-encumbered properties without a down payment, credit risk, payments, management, or maintenance while the loan stays safely and legally in the seller's name. Now, remember that when an owner of a property transfers his property to ownership to a bona fide third-party trustee in a legitimate title-holding land trust, and when that trustee is a nonprofit charitable corporation acting for the benefit of its members, which are all the beneficiaries and all the trusts they hold title to, then as a result now, you're not violating any due on sale clause, you're not doing anything with real estate, and so on. Now, it doesn't make any difference whether the property's upside down or not if you can make some money in other ways. In other words, you're going to take this property, it's upside down, but somehow when the smoke clears, you got a $250 a month positive cash flow. Somebody paid you $10,000 for the privilege of being able to live in this beautiful home that they could never afford otherwise, and somebody paid you another $10,000 to get it off their shoulders because they didn't know how to deal with this over-encumbered property. They thought they could rent it out and maybe have a negative cash flow for a couple of years, and hopefully the house would go up enough to cover it. And so it doesn't matter; it's not going to happen. In a couple of years, even if the house does go up, they still spent all of that money needlessly. So you come into that situation, you got $10,000 from the buyer, $10,000 from the seller, $250 a month for 5 years, and more than likely, that house is going to appreciate over that 5-year period of time. And when you sell it at the end of that time, you're going to pay off the loan and still have plenty of equity left over to stick in your pocket, or equity left over to share with your resident beneficiary who's been living there making the payments all this time. So on that particular subject, that's the over-encumbered property issue doesn't have to impact your life or your pocketbook or your bank account. It doesn't matter whether it's over-encumbered if you're making money on it. How much do people make on buying IBM stock for 500? I don't have any idea what IBM stock is selling for, but let's say the stock's selling for $500 a share, and you buy one share today. How much money did you make? Well, you didn't make any. You gave them $500, and you got $500 back in shares, and you're thinking, well, maybe it'll be worth more someday, but you don't know whether it is or not. But how about this? What if you knew for sure that the share would be worth $1,000 in 1 week? So you're going to buy it today for $500 and sell in a week and for $1,000, and you've doubled your money. Okay. Well, if you know that's true, what if somebody owning this share instead of $500 said they want $700? Well, you know that it's only worth $500 today, but you got to pay $700 for it. But you also know it's going to be worth $1,000 in a week. Would you mind paying $700 for that share? No, of course not. It doesn't matter. The share's over encumbered. So what you're going to do is pick up something that nobody else wants because you don't have any competition in doing that. And you do that all day long because you know something that the other people don't know. You know that it's going to go up in value. So you know that you're going to make a profit. And what if it doesn't go up in value? Well, how much have you lost? $250. Well, okay, so if you lost $250, but you have somebody else coming in to partner with you who handed you $250 in the beginning, well, nothing ever happens, you haven't lost anything. So that's the concept. When we talk about making money on over-encumbered properties, I'm always amazed at how difficult this concept is for some people. It doesn't matter what the house is worth or what you pay for it if you're going to make money on it. Anyway, and especially if you don't have to pay off any loans. You don't have to pay that $500 or the $750 for the share that's going up. It's just a concept. Because when I get a property from somebody, it's over encumbered. I don't pay out any money to get the property. They have to pay me to take it. They're going to say, well, you know, I'm going to sell you the house for a lot more than it's worth. Oh, yeah, really? Yeah, but I'm going to pay you to do that. Oh, okay. Well, I'll take your money, but I don't have to pay off the loan. At the end of the trust agreement, if the house hasn't gone up enough in value, or if the principal reduction from equity buildup hasn't taken place, I just walk away. It didn't cost me anything, but I get to keep the money they paid me to take it. And I get to keep the money that my resident beneficiary paid to put me into it. So, guys, think about that. How else are you going to do this in this business? Can you go out right now, pay more for a house than it's worth and make money? No, but you can go out right now and take a house that is valued at less than the loan on it and make money, because you can charge the seller, you can charge the buyer. You might even sell that whole deal now to an investor who will hand you another $10,000 to take it over, because he knows that he's going to make some money on it at the end. And you haven't had to pay off any loans. You haven't had to do anything. You haven't had to spend any money. So think about that. That's what equity sharing and combined with this whole trust concept will do for you. So let's take a look at an example now, okay? And this is just one of thousands of possible examples. This house that we're dealing with is worth $200,000. There's a loan on it of $235,000. So that means it's $35,000 over encumbered, okay? The payment on that loan is $1,400 a month plus tax and insurance. So the PITI, tax and insurance and principal and interest, is $1,700 a month. Okay, well, $1,700 a month is a little high for a $200,000 house, but not terrible. I mean, if you calculate the interest rate, it's going to come up to 6 or 7%, 8%. It's high for right now, but there were times when 13% or 14% was a good mortgage rate. So anyway, the seller now pays you $2,500 up front to get rid of the house. You then have a resident beneficiary standing by who's got $10,000, but never would he have enough money to pay a down payment and cover the buyer's side closing costs and everything else. But he does have $10,000. So the seller gives you $2,500, buyer gives you $10,000 up front, and the total closing costs out of that $12,500 that you get, or say $1,200. It leaves you with $10,000, and according to the figures there, would leave you with $10,500. But I made a mistake, so shut up. Buyer makes the same payment as one might, let's say, on a 100% loan. How much would you pay for a $200,000 house if you have to borrow $200,000 for 30 years at 6 or 6.5% interest? Well, you'd pay about $1,565 a month, $1,600 a month. Now, the seller is going to say, okay, well, I know that my payment is too high. He doesn't know that the buyer will pay you $1,700 a month, but he presumes that he won't. So let's say the seller kicks in $300 a month of the payment. Well, all of a sudden now, you've got $1,865 coming in and only $1,700 going out. So that's a $165 a month positive cash flow, and you multiply that by 60 months, comes out to around $10,000. I know the figures are a little bit off there, but work with me here. I'm just noticing that. So appreciation, let's say after 5 years, if the house did appreciate at 5% a year, the value at the end of that time is $255,000. And then after the loan payoff, you get half of whatever the profit is. That'll put $25,000 in your pocket. You already got $10,000 from the buyer and $12,500 from the seller, so you end up with $32,500. So you can hardly beat that because you got the property. There was no down payment, no credit qualifying, no management, no maintenance, no vacancy factors, no threat of in rem litigation, which means in rem means against the property versus in personam against you. And all of those threats are either eliminated or very much minimized. And you got a free maintenance man in every property. So it's if you just understand a simple concept in this particular analogy, even though the numbers are skewed a little bit, I'll fix them later. In this particular analogy, you can see what difference does it make if you only made $1.50 if it didn't cost you anything? Well, if $1.50 is not worth the time that I'm going to take to make telephone calls and do the paperwork and so forth. But what if you only made $1,000 and you could do 10 of these a month? Would you do it? Well, how about doing 5 a month and making $2,000 each, or 2 a month and making $10,000 each, or 1 a month and making $20,000 or $30,000 each? That'll give you a pretty good income if you understand it, and if you know how to do it, or if you have me to do it for you. And you do. If you're a network member of ours, I'm going to sell the deal for you. I'm going to talk to you and your client on a conference call. I'll sell the deal, and then I'll talk to you and your acquiring party on a conference call and sell the deal to them, put it together, do the paperwork, handle the legal work, the escrow process, and everything else. That's what we do. And that's why those of you who are members join the membership, so you get to have access to all of that. Now, another thing that we're going to teach you is how you can virtually eliminate your legal liability on any property that you own or acquire. In other words, if you don't have your personal home in a land trust right now, you're making a big mistake. You might think you're never going to get sued. You don't have to worry about it. But believe me, if you own real estate, the chances of you being sued during your lifetime goes up exponentially for every extra dollar that you display to the public that you have in your pocket or in real estate. So you might want to think about that. If you're using an Illinois type title holding, co-beneficiary, third-party trustee, inter vivos, asset protection land trust, then you can eliminate all those threats. So if somebody decides later on that, oh my gosh, look, this guy's driving a Rolls Royce, brand new Rolls Royce. He's got some money. I think I'll just sue him. Well, they can sue you and take your Rolls Royce maybe if they win the lawsuit, but they can't get to your house whether they win or not. If it's in a title holding land trust. Why not? Because you don't own the house, not your house. Somebody else owns that house, not you. You just own a beneficial interest in the faux corporation that owns that house. Okay, so if somebody's going to sue IBM Corporation and you happen to be a stockholder of the corporation, they can't sue you. They got to sue the corporation. Same with the land trust. They can't sue you. They got to sue the trustee. And the trustee says, well, what are you suing me for? I didn't do anything wrong. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going to find out that you did something wrong. Can't. I'm just a title holder. I just responded to the directions of the beneficiaries, and I don't have any equity in the property. I have an equitable interest in the property, but I don't hold any dollars in any savings account any place or any checking account. And, I'm not responsible for the maintenance and the management and so forth. So go ahead and sue me if you want to. It won't work. And a lot of people have tried. Since I've been in this business, it's been 30 years almost, there have been a lot of people who tried to sue beneficiaries, other beneficiaries suing beneficiaries, lenders trying to claim due on sale violation, IRS tax audits that failed because of the land trust, and so on. So we've been there. We've been there, done that over and over and over again. We've died on the cross for everyone who comes later. And you don't have to worry about getting sued because the bank probably already tried to sue and failed. So that's why first of all, you need this concept. And secondly, some of what you can do with it. Let's talk about other things you can do with this. How to protect any property from creditor liens, judgments, IRS tax liens, actions in marital dissolution, bankruptcy, and probate. Let's say that you and your wife own a property jointly, and you put the property in a land trust, and it says Mary and Bob Smith hereby grant this property to Equity Holding Corporation, Mid Pines or Chowchilla, California. They moved. Chowchilla, California. Bam. Now, Equity Holding Corporation owns the house. Your wife does not, and you do not. You have an equitable interest in the property. But let's say that when you put this property together, for some reason, you forgot to add your wife on as a co-beneficiary. Well, what happens is then now is if you get a divorce and she's going to say, okay, well, I want my half of the house. I'm not suggesting that anybody go screw your wife out of something. I certainly wouldn't. But what happens is she doesn't have any claim against the property because you don't own it. And all she has is a marital interest in you and what you own. So if you're in a community property state, she can claim an interest in any proceeds that you receive from the house, but she can't claim any interest in the house. Now, nobody wants to screw an ex-spouse. I know that, But that's a nice way for either party to protect their interest in case they think something might not go right later on. With me, I want a prenup agreement. When I get married, I want a prenup. Well, I am married and I don't have a prenup agreement. And but next time, I keep telling Gail, next time, by golly. And then she says to me, well, I would have to give you the prenup because you didn't have a damn penny in your pocket when we met. And that's true. So anyway, moving right along here with all the philosophy, how to manage rental income property with significantly higher than normal rents without the cost of management and maintenance. Let's say I put you, one of you guys, in one of my properties, and you say, okay, since I'm going to be getting the income tax write-off, I'll be happy to pay a lot more than normal rent. I say, super. And since I'm going to be getting some of the appreciation, if there is any, I'll pay a little bit more than that even. And since I'm going to be sharing 50-50 in the equity buildup from principal reduction, I'll raise my rents even a little bit more. And since you're going to put in high pile carpeting and a ceiling fan in every room, I'll pay a little bit more. And since I have this little dog, I pay, maybe $10 a month pet fee. And since I have the big dog, well, I'll pay $25 a month. Since I have this cat, I'll pay another $1,000 a month, no question asked. So as a result, now you can jack your rents way up there and still save your tenant a lot of money. Now we've gone through this before and think about, and I know you guys have worked this out 100 times, but for the new people, even though you worked it out at the workshop, I'll give it to you again. Somebody's in a 1/3 tax bracket, 1/3 tax bracket. That means that they have to pay 1/3 of everything they earn to the government. And let's say they're renting from you for $1,000 a month. So they go to work and they say, okay, I have to earn $1,000 in order to pay my rent. So how much is the government going to take out of that $1,000 that I earn? Well, the typical answer right here is the government's going to take out 1/3. Well, if they take out 1/3 of $1,000, that only leaves you with about $700 to pay your rent, $650. Well, your rent's $1,000 a month. How can you pay your rent if you only end up with $700 left over? Well, that means you didn't earn enough money. So if you're going to pay 1/3 to the government, you got to earn $1,500. $1,500. That's 150% more than your rent, because the government wants 1/3 of the 1,500 so that you still have 1,000 left over to pay your landlord. So what you're actually paying your landlord is not 1/3 of the $1,000, it's 50%. So you suppose anybody who's renting a property who understands their tax situation wouldn't like to, in that particular analogy, reduce that $1,500 after tax fee down to $1,250 a month. Well, of course they would. Well, what happens when they do that? You were renting to them for $1,000, but all of a sudden now they're paying $1,250. So that means you made $250 a month every single month extra. Not only that, you save $400 a month because they're taking care now. They're taking all the maintenance and the repair and the upkeep and so on. And instead of $1,500 a month, they now only pay $1,250 a month after tax. And they have pride of ownership, principal reduction, equity build up, and all the benefits of fee simple real estate ownership. Pretty cool, huh? How to guarantee future appreciation when there isn't any, or isn't going to be any? Well, that's going back to equity sharing again. If you are renting a house out for $1,000 a month, and you calculate how much you gain or lose over a particular period of time, and there is zero appreciation, you lose. You lose everything. You don't lose the house necessarily, but you lost the profit. But if the house had gone up 5% a year over that period of time, a $200,000 house becomes a $255,000 house. And now you made $55,000. But what if there is no appreciation? Well, why don't you go back and charge your resident beneficiary, your tenant in the property, charge him enough money extra per month that it adds up to $65,000. So take 65,000 divided by 60 months and see how much you got to raise the rent per month. And what you'll find out is when you do that, it's still a tremendous bargain for your resident beneficiary, your tenant beneficiary. And if there is no appreciation, now you made the $55,000 or $65,000 in additional extra monthly positive cash flow. So it's like an appreciation guarantee. So let's move on a little bit now. How you can get a free property manager and a full-time maintenance worker in every rental property. Obviously, if you're doing equity sharing or anything else you do, you've got a resident beneficiary in the property who's making all the payments as well as handling all of the maintenance and repair and the upkeep and the property tax and the insurance and the homeowners association dues and the mellow roofs assessment and the sidewalk assessment and the ding dong Mickey bobber. So you got the whole thing covered, and it's not costing you anything. Somebody else is doing it in exchange for what you were able to do for them and getting them into a property without stringent qualifications and a lot of money up front and the rigmarole of buying a house. How to give a lease tenant. Well, we already talked about that. How to give a lease tenant full income tax write-off for your own mortgage interest and property tax in exchange for enhancing your rental income and giving you freedom from the management and maintenance and so forth without giving up your own tax deductions. Now, notice the part in red there. Now, without giving up your own tax deduction. How do you do that? Can two people take the same tax deduction on the same loan in the same property? That's a question that I have people ponder at the workshops. And obviously the answer that I expect from everyone, including the attorneys and accountants in the room, is no. Two people can't take the same tax write-off. Oh, yes, they can, as long as it doesn't cost the government anything. And here's why. Let me just hit you with this real quick. If you're living in the property as my resident beneficiary, and if you understand Revenue Ruling 92-105 and Internal Revenue Code 163H4D and for depreciation 167 and so on, if you know these things, you know, and your accountant knows that you have the right to take the tax write-off. If you can just prove to the IRS that you're the one making the payments, you're the one responsible for maintenance and the upkeep, and you have a contractual obligation to make those payments, and it's your personal principal private residence, then under Section 163, you have the absolute right to claim the income tax write-off for mortgage interest and property tax. Now, what about me, on the other hand? I got a loan, as let's say, in my name. So as a result of this loan in my name, you know, I've been going along and claiming the interest and the property tax as my deduction. No, both of us can't take the same deduction, right? Well, yeah, actually, in actuality, I should say. The reason for that is this. If you are making all of your payments to a third-party collection service, and that third-party collection service is covering all the payments of the bank, the insurance company, and the taxing agencies, and so forth, what they're going to do is they're going to send me a check every month for my positive cash flow. And let's say that I get $200 a month positive cash flow. Well, that $200 is all I owe any tax on. It's my income. The rest of it is a wash because it's an in and out paid by somebody else and so on. So I don't see it. I don't get it. I don't claim it. I just pay tax on the $200. Now, what if I were to decide, hey, I don't know if I like this or not. I'm just going to go ahead and take the tax write-off. So I go ahead and then fill out my tax returns. I don't tell my accountant that I got a resident beneficiary, none of his business anyway, and he treats the whole thing as a rental property. Now he says, okay, you have to claim this rental income as if you were receiving it, and then we'll offset it with your tax write-off, and that'll then leave you $200 a month as positive cash flow, and that's what you owe tax on. Now, think about that. The government sees you paying tax on $200 a month, whether you took the tax write-off and didn't claim the income, or whether you took the tax write-off and claimed the income. You still only pay tax on the $200 a month. So when you're selling this concept to a seller, a lot of times you get the comment, if you say things wrong, you get the comment, well, I don't want to have to give up that tax write-off. That's really important to me. All you got to do is say, well, you don't have to. Well, wait a second. You know, two people can't take the same tax write-off. You don't want to say, oh, yes, they can. You want to say, well, actually, in this situation, it's possible if you wanted to claim the income, you can write it off. But you don't have to claim the income because it goes to a third-party collection agency, and they pay all the bills and send you the positive cash flow, and that's all you owe tax on. But it'd be up to you how you want to treat it. So that's a pretty good selling point if you understand it clearly. And the one thing I want to give you a little caveat on is don't tell somebody that that's the way it is. Give them a suggestion, what some people have mentioned to you, or what some people may be doing, or something. Don't be an accountant. You don't have a license to be an accountant. You're not an attorney. You're not, unless you are one or the other. And even if you are, you'd be wise not to try to give legal advice or accounting advice to somebody when you don't know the entire circumstances. So you can make suggestions. You can give them analogies like I'm giving you right now, but don't purport to be offering legal advice or professional accounting advice, unless you are one. How to permanently shield any property from liens, suits, judgments, divorce actions, probate, bankruptcy, IRS tax liens, mechanical liens, and creditor judgments. Wouldn't it be nice if you never had to worry about any one of those things? Well, simple. Put your property in a land trust. Now, that land trust, if you have more than one beneficiary, is immune or separate from these issues. In other words, you're not going to get a creditor judgment because the creditor would have to sue the owner of the property, and the owner of the property didn't rack up any credit with them, so they're going to have to then turn around and sue you personally. Well, they can do that, but they can't get your house. And the same with that, or well, not the same, but it's a little bit different light. Let's say a mechanic's lien. That's a lien that a worker puts on your house. You decide you're going to build an extra room on your house, and the construction people come out, and the first thing they do is they give you a bid, tell you what it's going to cost, and then they turn around and put a lien on the property for that amount so that they can foreclose if you don't pay them. Well, they got to be careful with that because you don't own the house and you're the one ordering the work. So they better check the title real close and find out that somebody else owns the house. And then they'll find out that the trustee is not going to sign anything. They're not going to sign any work orders. They're not going to do anything like that. So now there has to be special preparations made or arrangements made in order to get that room built. You're going to have to give them something else if they have to have security. But what happens is most of the time the contractor comes out and makes his deal, and he's so big a rush to get going that he doesn't bother checking the title. He just puts a lien on the house. Well, he's out of luck if somebody tries to defraud him or cheat him or something, because he has nobody to sue, because he did work on the property for someone who signed the work order who doesn't even own the house. So think about that. IRS tax liens, the IRS can't attach a property if there are two people owning it, if one of the parties is not culpable in whatever the breach of tax law is. And as far as probate, property and trust doesn't have to go through probate. You just die and your heirs don't have to pay off anybody because you didn't own the property. So since you didn't own it, it was owned by a trustee, then the property doesn't end up in your probate and your heirs don't have to go in and settle up with all your creditors, so forth. And with divorce actions, in divorce actions, the ex-spouse can't put a lien on the property unless she is a beneficiary in the trust. Because you don't own it anymore. If she's a co-beneficiary, she can put a lien against you, but not against the property. Okay? Lawsuits, divorce actions, and so on. So it's a pretty ideal arrangement. How to make big profits on real estate in ways that other people just simply do not understand and have no access to. You do, you know me, you're a network member of ours, you've got access to our documentation, to our training, to our client assistance and conferencing, and our access to our attorneys, accountants, and so on. So you kind of got the bull by the tail there. Maybe it's a tiger that you grab by the tail, I forget. How to turn real estate into personal estate without losing a single benefit of fee simple real estate ownership. And that's interesting because when you put a property into a land trust, not an inter vivos family trust or a charitable remainder trust or a spendthrift trust or a REIT, real estate investment trust, but when you put your property into a simple Illinois type title holding trust, you've converted your ownership to personal estate, but you still get 100% of all the benefits of having real estate, which is cool. What that means is now you don't have to lose any of the benefits of real estate ownership, even though you don't own the real estate. And that means that if it's personal estate, then Garn St. Germain law doesn't apply, and the Dodd Frank Act doesn't apply, and RESPA and Thailand and HOPA and Reg Z and credit reporting and so on. None of that applies. It's personality. Okay, so how to flip a property in a week. Okay, I just added that one yesterday, as a matter of fact. But how to flip a property in a week without needing any new financing, down payment, or ever losing single benefit of any fee simple real estate ownership. So what if I go out and somebody's got a property and it maybe has no equity or a little bit of equity, and I take it over and I turn around and I put an ad in the paper. There's a beautiful $200,000 house. No payments due to resident beneficiary or something like that, and you can have it for $5,000, $10,000. Somebody's going to come along and want it. They don't have to do any work on it. There's already a tenant in it who's paying enough money every month that there's a positive cash flow, and also handling 100% of all the maintenance and the repairs and the upkeep and the property tax and the insurance and the homeowners association and on and on and on and on. Why wouldn't somebody want to give me $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, whatever it might be, to take that little gem off my hands and hold it for their income for the rest of their life for the next 5 years? So that's how to do it. I mean, you're not going to make the money that you might if you go in and you can get a property at 65% of the after repair value, fix it up and sell it for $1 million or something, obviously. But you couldn't do as many of those deals a month as you can these deals a month. So flipping a property in a week doesn't take long to get a resident beneficiary. So all of this, if it doesn't sound too good to be true, and I understand that a lot of it does, then check your pulse because you're probably dead. Okay? Because it should sound too good to be true because it is so good and so true. And anything that's good got to require some questioning and some investigation. So the whole point of this is good and it is true, and you have access to it, and you know how to do it, and we know how to do it, and we'll do it for you. So why are you walking away from all those beautiful houses that are condos and PUDs and commercial properties and so on that you can make so much money on, but which just don't fit flipping or wholesaling scenario? That's my question to you. So let's do this. Let's get back to where we were here. Let's see if you got any questions or anything like that. Don't bother me. Just ask Brett. Brett, are you on the line? Let's see if I don't see you here, Brett. Where are you? Hold on, Brett. Come on, Brett. Hang on, guys. Here's what I'm going to do. Brett, I'm going to unmute everybody and just tell me. Well, wait a second. I have to do
I can unmute me. Can you hear me?
Hello, Brett. How are you?
Well, my voice is scratchy again, but I'm doing terrific.
Why is your voice scratchy, if I might ask?
I don't know. Maybe it's an allergy. It just got me last night. But anyway, it's great to be here. Love the information you shared today.
Well, you just reminded me of a story. I don't know if I told you or not, but the golfers that he went out to play golf, got there a little bit early, waiting for his buddy, and all of a sudden he's about half an hour early, but he sees his buddy walking back toward the clubhouse over the green, and he says, "Hey, Bob, what's going on? Where are you going?" He said, "I gotta go home." He says, "Gotta go home? What's wrong with your voice?" And he says, "Well, I got out early today, and I thought I'd chip a few, and I hit the ball over in the rough, and I'm out there looking for my ball, and I see a Titleist too, and but mine's a Spalding. So I keep looking. I look behind a tree and look. Finally, I see a cow standing over there in the weeds. So I think, oh, maybe so. So I go look around where the cow is, thinking maybe the cow's standing on my ball. I push the cow, and the cow moves, and no ball. So I start to walk away. And then I thought, well, wait a second. There's just one chance in a billion, maybe. But I walk back over to the cow, pick up the cow's tail, and look in there, and there's my ball stuck right in there, right under that tail. And I can't believe it. So I reach in with my fingernails and pull it out. And now I'm starting to walk out. And uh, no, I didn't pull it out. I just left it in there. Come to think of it, just left it right in there. Yeah, didn't touch it. So I'm starting to walk out, and this old woman comes in, carrying a little bag with just her 2 and 3 wood in it and a couple irons. She says, "Excuse me, did you see my bottle around here anywhere?" So I said, "Well, no." I go up, lift up the cow's tail and point at it, and I said, "This look like yours?" And she got me with a 9 iron right across the neck.
Oh boy,
That's my
I like your other golf story.
now.
About
Yeah, that's
the
he's
three
leaving on the
guys.
right or left side. Yeah, yeah. We'll do that one next week.
Okay, all right,
What's
that
going on
sounds.
in the world of Mr. Brett Ehlers these days?
Oh wow, everything is terrific. It's really really good. In fact, the world of real estate for everybody, if they're out there working it, is really really good. I love the stats that just came in for Phoenix. Uh, the market uh, has dropped back below normal, so be scooping up those free houses. The hedge funds are gone. They paid full market value and treated it like a stock. But a stock, you don't have tenants, toilet trash, and turnover. And now some of these hedge funds are trying to sell off the bad investment for their stockholders so they can't get rid of it. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So time to go get some free houses.
Well, where are we going to get those free houses, Brett?
Well, one of the places is all of the free online classifieds that we can go check out to find individuals that are selling them without real estate agents. Another place is, in fact, one of the best places is to let everybody that knows who you are know that you're buying real estate and helping people with difficult real estate situations. These are people that already trust you. They're going to know others, and in conversation, they're going to find out about their friends that are having a little difficulty, and they'll say, "Hey, you really ought to get in touch with my other friend George here. He takes care of those kinds of things." So that's uh, one of the best places they should start because the trust factor's already been established.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing that a lot of people don't think about often enough is the thing. Remember the old elevator speech?
Oh yeah, I use it all the time. I'm on an elevator.
Of course you do. And everywhere else. You know, how many times do we walk around? Somebody says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And we said, "Oh, well, gee, I work for NASA, and I'm responsible for the lunar landing module's little happenstance chingabopper that goes in the ding dong, and yeah, I created that myself, and then I went on to build a this and that." And people just turn away, walk away. But what somebody should say when somebody asks you what you do for a living is something that you could say between the first and third floor on an elevator. But people get on the elevator, "Hey, how you doing?" "Yeah, I'm good." "I saw you in here yesterday." "What do you do, by the way?" "Well, what I say is I help people buy real estate without having to spend any money or qualify for loans." That's it. Now the door opens and the guy turns around, puts his hand inside, and says, You and I are going to have to talk. That's an elevator speech. So, guys, work up your elevator speech, something that you can say in less than a minute, and something that will grab the attention and attention getting affirmation. Sorry
And
to
the,
butt in there, Brett. I was going to shut up and let you take the reins of this puppy.
this is your show, so you weren't butting in.
No, it's
Uh,
your show too. You and I have been partnering on this show for a long time. I want to know how everything's going with FES. I would like these people to know how they can make some money with FES, not only for themselves, but also how to get their clients' credit cleaned up so they can buy them out at the end of the trust term and so on.
Absolutely, business with FES is just booming. The Malcolm Gladwell in his book The Tipping Point talks he and for those of you that don't know who he is hired by these major corporations to investigate uh, what is happening out there in the markets so that he can provide forecasts for their industry and their business so they can be ahead of their competition in events that are starting to emerge. And that is where we are with the real estate industry. And one of those components that's part of the tipping point and part of the real estate industry is the aspect of credit repair and being able to provide that to your buyers, your customers, to help them to move ahead with their life. And it isn't like it used to be where uh, it was important, but it was really only important. Your credit scores were only important if you were buying a house, maybe a car. It affects everything that has to do with your customers now, and it affects what they pay for their mortgage insurance, their property and casualty insurance, the interest they pay on their loans, and that directly affects you in your ability to stay compliant with Dodd Frank and to be able to sell that property to them. Uh, you, if you're not engaging with the services of FES on the front end of your transactions, you're going to waste a lot of time with people that are really not serious about wanting to be a good resident beneficiary. Also, you're going to make it more difficult for yourself to get that property transaction completed at the end of the trust term when you're wanting that resident beneficiary to be capable of getting their own loan. And another great thing is that it provides you an additional income between your transactions while you're waiting to get the contingency money for the transaction while you're working to find the right property for your buyers. It is just a great source. Also, I know that there's several people that are on this call that have their own credit issues that they need to get caught up. And if you've got low scores, you're costing yourself a lot of money in what you're paying to your insurance companies, what you're paying on your interest rates on your cards. In some states, even what you pay for your utilities is determined on your credit scores. And it's just too inexpensive not to get the services for yourself, or better yet, join Bill and me. And if you're involved with us, you're going to be able to make money not only on your real estate buy with your real estate buyers and your transactions, but also establishing other individuals with their agency throughout the United States. So we want to encourage you to come and join us.
Yeah, Brett, one thing that I've gotten from a few people is, well, this sounds like, I can't even think of the word right now. What is the term for building something based? What word am I looking for?
Multi-level.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Easy words are hard for me. And I mentioned to them, yeah, I can't tell you that it's not a multi-level situation. It's just that there's nothing ever has been ever, ever, ever wrong with a multi-level business structure. the only thing that's ever been wrong is that the people have abused the concept and tried to make it something else and make it a pyramid scheme instead of a multi-level business. And when you do that, when you convert something to basically a pyramid scheme, that means that your lower levels are going to disappear once somebody has made some money, and all of a sudden it falls apart. But in a properly operated multi-level system, that's the most ideal business system that could possibly be. So if somebody has some concerns about that, I had a couple of people last week, two, they didn't even know each other, and they both mentioned the same thing within a period of about 2 days. And I don't know if it was a deterrent to them or not, but I told them that, you would be fortunate to set up a multi-level operation for a business. So as far as FES is concerned, it turns out to be a multi-level earning opportunity, but it's not something where the lower levels can fade away. So that was my little input on it, in case anybody right there out there right now has those concerns.
Absolutely. I've the real estate industry has been multi-level ever since I got my real estate license in the early '80s.
Of course.
And uh, in fact, if you've read the information by Paul Pilzer is a economic forecaster, very accurate. And he, in his last book that he put out called The Next Millionaires, which have to do with the 2000s, he accurately forecasted the destruction of the real estate industry and also what was going to be happening in order for businesses and individuals to survive with government regulations. And one of the things that he spent a lot of time on was the aspect of multi-level business. And I look at how things are occurring out there with that. Let's look at Google. Google has their multi-level program. Amazon has their multi-level program. Citibank has their multi-level program. It just goes on, and that's part of the the marketing that has become the norm. It isn't the exception anymore, and anyone that isn't observing what's going on out there in business is missing that incredible opportunity. Unlike the lotions and potions companies that are out there, these big corporations are not set up in that manner, just like Bill said. And we're more of a hybrid company, just like real estate brokerages or mortgage brokerages, insurance brokerages, where volume is generated not strictly on enrolling individuals, but actually selling something, selling a product. And that's why the like Bill said, the bottom isn't going to fall out here. You make money by selling goods and services, and it's not just the credit repair, it is the living family trust for protecting your estate against probate, and the LifeLock. My dad was in the hospital or in the health nursing home for several years because of dementia. He needed 24/7 care, and the state got hacked into their secured servers, and we had to put my dad on LifeLock to protect his Social Security, his disability, Medicaid that was caring for him. If somebody would have gotten and stolen his identity, his records, would have caused a real problem with caring for him. So LifeLock is an incredible tool to protect you and your family, and that's the number one crime now is the theft of identity. LifeLock's been huge for us. We've had our accounts hacked 3 times now in the last about 6 months. Had it happen again this last weekend on one of Heidi's credit cards. And I'm glad we had LifeLock. Everything got shut down so there was no harm. But you're absolutely right on that, Bill. That is the business model that major corporations use now. And I'll bet there's people here that don't even realize that they're part of that multi-level structure, especially if they're doing things with eBay and Amazon and those types of things.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing about the multi-level structure, it is an ideal situation. And in order to make it work properly, you have to be a big company, well-funded, lots of money behind you, lots of um, goodwill and what have you. People tend to confuse the multi-level concept with the RICO schemes, you know, like the chain letter thing and all of that. So uh, I just want to make sure that that's not a deriding factor here. Is that then in the case of FES and United Credit, that the multi-level aspect of it is what allows people to make money on it, and is what what's the word? What's legitimatizes the entire thing to an absolute degree. So if you don't have it, guys, I would recommend it. I've gotten two letters so far from LifeLock and asking me if I had ordered a certain thing on a credit card and so forth. And both of them were false alarms, but it's a comforting feeling to know that somebody's looking out for you, that if somebody was trying to steal my identity in some way or form, that I would know about it and be protected from it.
And
So,
for those of you that text, we got our alert via text. Bill just doesn't text.
yeah, when I said letters, I meant by email, actually.
Oh, okay, good. The
No, I take it back. Wait a second. Wait a second. They came in envelopes. They came in
okay,
envelopes. Pre-printed letter with
and they do.
actual writing.
Yeah, they do. If you're not set up with texting, they're going to get the
Yeah.
word to you any way that you can, or that they can, and make sure that everything is shut down, so that you're not going to become a victim.
Yeah, I don't text. I'm too old to text. Texting is for the whippersnappers out there. I don't. My thumbs don't work that way. I've used my thumbs for so many years for other things that I don't. I mean, like 10 years ago, I stopped using my thumb to pick my nose and started using my little finger instead. So when I text now, it's the same kind of thing. I'm just not built for it.
Uh, well, I don't know where someone can have a national business other than working with you or being and a national business where someone else is holding all the bonds, the licensing, is doing all of the protections to stay federally compliant. All of that's being done for you for $286.87 a month, and you get all of the services part as part of that $87 a month, as well as a merchant account and your own website. And FES allows you to have their Better Business Bureau rating on your site. And just going out and buying the Better Business Bureau rating would cost you several $100s every year. So it's just a tremendous credibility tool to be involved with Bill and to be involved with FES as part of your real estate investing business.
Well, tell me this, and for the benefit of anyone else listening in, you've gone to a lot of the conventions, the FES conventions, and so forth. What do the people who go to those conventions? How much money are they making a year or a
Oh,
month?
yeah, many of those individuals are making $100,000 a month that are there, and they've been involved in the business for approximately 4 years. It's
$100,000 a month. That's
a month,
$1.2 million a year.
yes.
Oh
In
my God, that's more than I'm making a week, Brett.
yes.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Okay. Two of my favorite examples of the last couple of years at the events. Uh, One gal who had been uh, back in the Tom Landry days, had been a Cowboys cheerleader and mother of four now, married, living in California. and she is one of those top earners. Well, this last year she'd set certain goals, and about a third of the way into her goals with the company, uh, they found that she had breast cancer. She had to go through all of the medical issues, and despite all of the trials and the issues, she ended up being in the top 5 earners this year, and fighting off the breast cancer and the surgeries and the chemo and everything. Just incredibly committed. The year before, Miranda, and we were on the cruise here a few weeks ago with this young lady. She's just a wonderful person. Miranda last year was building her business from her bed because of severe health problems that she had, and she ended up being number one earner 2 years ago. She was on the cruise again this year as
Well,
well.
let us know let's say we take the top 100 people.
Uh-huh.
What do they make a year?
They average that out with the top 100 people. They're going to be making 2 to 3, let's $1 to $2,000 a week if you take that as an average.
That's $4,000 to $8,000 a month.
Yes,
That's $100,000 a year for the top side of that. You
yes.
know, this is incredible, Brett. And our people have the opportunity to do this. And I know that with our people that they can get in through you, get FES and get some special deals and all of that. So I just encourage you guys to, you can write to me if you want to. It doesn't really matter whether you write to Brett or me, but send me an email, bg@landtrust.net. I will then give you my FES website if you're interested in becoming a member, and then we can go from there. And I would give it to you right now, but I can't think of what it is. Do you know, Brett?
The
My website is what?
It is www dot.
www dot, and I can spell that for you if you wish.
Yeah, and I'll know here in 1 second, 5 seconds, what that is. Hold on just a second.
The
Let me
V
just
starts
get
with a V.
it does. So it would be myMYFES dot net/BGATTEN, I believe is what that is. Let me look
Okay,
at
I'm
this.
going to have to give it to you by email. No one's going to remember that. Can you say it all again?
Yeah, I can. Yes, and that's accurate. So it's going to be www dot myFES, so FES dot net. It's a dot net / capital B, capital G, and then lowercase ATTEN.
Oh, /BGAT. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you want to, if you didn't get it all, guys, send me an email and I'll lay it on you.
Come join us. I know we have just started for the qualifications for the cruise for next year. Every one of you that are on this call could join us on the cruise next year. It is top notch all the way, outside cabins with balconies. So not only do you earn all of the money, you also are treated incredibly well by the ownership of the company as a producer in the company. So come join us. It was great the
Excellent.
last 2 years.
Excellent. 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 Brett, we went a little bit over time today. I want to apologize to everybody for that, but it was really well worth it. And I want to thank you all for being on the line. And we've got a bunch of folks. I've got a flag up. I better take care of the flag first. So
Yes.
before we close out, Brad, if you're ready to answer questions, or I am, let's try talking to EFI, I think it is. I'm not sure. Okay, somebody's got the flag up, and now's the time. Speak now or forever hold your peace. And let's see, the only thing I can say is this, it looks like EFI or FE or EFI. No, well, I'm going to deflag you in just a second. Consider yourself deflagged, Effie. Okay. And consider yourself muted again. There we go. So if anybody else has anything, now is the time, because we're going to wrap it up here in about 1 minute. And let's see if there's any meeting chats. Brett Ayler's okay, got that. Oh, there you go. myfes.net/capital BG and then ATTEN. That's www dot. Forget about that part. Just myfes.net/B Gatton with the B and the G capitalized. Okay, guys, thank you all so much for joining us today and for all the input and so forth. It gets a little smoother every week as I learn to operate this thing. And we'll see you all next Saturday. And remember, for the affiliate program, those of you who are affiliates and making 50% of our profit on Trenton and stuff and all that, our meeting on Thursday night will resume until further notice. So be there Wednesday, or excuse me, my mouth is faster than my brain. Be there Thursday evening, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time for the affiliate meeting. And you know how to do that. And we'll see you all then, if not sooner. And congratulations to a couple of you right now who got deals in process. And really appreciate the opportunity to be of assistance and to help you close those transactions. So let's do it. Let's move ahead. And once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you next Saturday.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bill.
You
Have a
bet.
great day, buddy.
You bet.
Bye-bye.